conversations. Let's have real conversations.
Get ready to stir it up.
Life events and everything in between. Let's go.
Get ready to stir it up.
No capping. If guests got you covered right up.
Get ready to stir it up. Stir it up.
Come on.
Get ready to stir it up.
Hi everyone, welcome to Stir It Up. Today I have Sir Squire.
Yeah, I like that.
You like that?
Yes. Reminds me of something.
Tara Squire.
Yes.
Hi Tara.
Hi, Akua.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's always good to be here.
So as they say, life is short. Life is for the living. Tara and I are going to be talking about keeping life youthful, fulfilled, and meaningful. It's a loaded gun.
Yes.
Why do you say it's a loaded gun?
Because it's like we are constantly in the pursuit of those things. So you wonder if you are ever fit to speak about it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of us call you Obia Brantier. And then sometimes we call you Onipenyua, amongst other things.
I know, right?
And you recently turned the big 50.
Yeah. And
I know people who say you act and look your age. And I know people who say you don't. And it's just because of who you are and how you carry yourself and how you've bridged multiple generations and just how you've kind of worked yourself through life. What's if you had one life view, what would that be?
I don't know why I keep doing this to myself.
is
Sitting on
it?
this couch and subjecting myself to such difficult questions. One live view.
Well, I agree that we all have several.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? But within the context of being youthful, fulfilled, and just things, you know, living a meaningful life, if there was one thing that was a life view for you.
I think the topic lends itself to that, doing things that fulfill you. I don't want to pigeon it into one specific area, but I think doing things that make you feel fulfilled is a life view worth having.
Okay.
So if I was supposed to crystallize everything into one life view, which is difficult, I think this will be it. Doing things that make you feel fulfilled.
Okay. Is life an experience that should be endured or an experience that you have to enjoy?
The latter. I think enduring life is such a depressing way to put
But
it.
Charlie, a lot of people are enduring life.
Yes, but you see, the reason why I went for the latter, I said you have to enjoy.
Okay.
Right? Because, yeah, it's not always going to be rosy. But I think saying you have to enjoy, I think, works for me. Because I think, what was that movie? The Pursuit of Something.
Happiness.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many debates about whether happiness is something you pursue or something you do on a consistent basis. But I think back to what I talked about in terms of a single life view, if there's ever was one, I think things that fulfill you, not always, but usually are things that make you happy. And therefore I think, yes, hacking to enjoy works better for me than enduring. Because I think, again, it could be different sides of the same coin, but your perspective sort of determines what you go through. So if you go through life thinking, I'm enduring it, it's going to be a painful journey. Okay?
Yeah.
whilst if you go through life saying, yeah, I'm here to enjoy this, then sometimes the same experiences will impact you differently.
I can see that. You know how if you have a boss who gives you a lot of pressure to perform, you could see it as this boss is
Yeah, absolutely.
not being fair to you, or you could see that this boss is
It's
empowering you or
to
pushing you to be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
That's my boss, by the way. The latter, I mean.
You better correct it and be very clear.
Yeah, but it's the latter. I mean,
But you know what I mean.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You could take that same thing and either decide
The
that
same is
yeah,
perspective,
absolutely,
right? It's the
absolutely.
whole thing about
Yeah.
perspective taking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you could go through the fire and be molded, or you could go through the fire and come out and say, I'm scarred.
Yes. And it's interesting you say that, because recently I was working with my boss, and you know me and my mouth.
Yeah.
So
I
halfway
do.
through the day, you shouldn't even have to say I know. Halfway through the day, I sent him a message. I said, "Boss, am I overstepping?" And let me tell you what the man said to me. The man said, "As always." Then he added, "But I wouldn't have it any other way." And I was like, God, like, how did you even say that to me? Now I have mixed feelings. Like, when you say "as always," like, girl, you need to find a pigeonhole and go and hide in that pigeonhole. But I wouldn't have it any other way was the mixed feeling, because it's like, but I appreciate that you say what you have to say, So, what does youthfulness mean to you? Is it age defined? Is it in the mind? Is it an attitude? What's it?
I wish I could say it's in the mind, but yeah, sometimes when you wake up,
Your
at
knees.
50 years, your knees give you a different signal. But I think it's an attitude more than anything.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's cultural, but I think we take ourselves too seriously along the age curve, right? Maybe it's the way we were brought up, like where elders are gathered, young people cannot be there.
Children must be seen, not heard.
Kind of thing. Maybe it's that. But sometimes I see people who are so eager to be their age. Like, so what's your age? Okay, so you are 50, so you must only listen to music in the 50s. That's a clear sign of somebody who cannot change. Okay. And you may think it's just music, but it's probably manifesting in other ways. Okay. And I think youthfulness is an indication of dynamism. It's an indication of vulnerability. It's an indication of even humility. I obviously I take youthfulness quite seriously.
Is that you trying to say that you are dynamic, you are vulnerable, and you are humble?
I'll take your interpretation. No.
You cheeky monkey.
That's why we are friends.
Okay, I'll go with it. I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think yes, it's an attitude. I think if you learn not to take yourself too seriously, I think you'd realize that being youthful is actually very enjoyable, and you can be youthful without losing respect. Because I think in our part of the world, youthfulness is not necessarily associated with respect. Like, a young person cannot hold a certain position just because they are young. It doesn't matter that they may be young, but they have the best experience and they are the smartest and they are the best suited. So because of that, we sort of run away from youthfulness.
Yes.
But I think when you are able to find the right balance, it's actually fun. Okay. And therefore, I think it's an attitude that sometimes it's held by your makeup as a person, so it comes naturally to some people more than the others.
Okay.
Sometimes it's the way you are socialized. You are maybe brought up in a certain way where you are always very serious, always tucked in, always you must act the part and all that. But I think the other parts is also the effort you put into it. And therefore, yeah, I think it's a worthy pursuit, youthfulness.
So when you talked slightly a little bit about when you are young, people want to be in a hurry to be a certain age, and you talked about when you are young, you're not allowed to take certain roles. For example, my first role as a general manager of a business was when I was about 32. And I always say that I would never have had that role if the leaders who run that company were Ghanaian.
Absolutely.
And that's because the perception of people who lead, and it was a multinational company, right? It was Publicis, right? And because the perception of people who run companies that are multinational companies are old, experienced, steady. They should have had donkey years of experience, right? And here I was, young kid, but not so young kid. In my view, sharp, had lots of potential, but not as much experience. I didn't even have experience as a general manager, right? But here were two leaders who, one was Finnish and the other was South African, who says she can do it, and handed over literally a business to me and said, go manage this business, right? And for me, I always say that it's also a bit of that cultural tension where within where we live, we don't think that young people should be able to take on certain roles, certain responsibilities. They should be seen, they shouldn't be heard. And even in in the workplace today, I've experienced things where we all sit on a council, we all sit in on a body, and someone is expressing a point of view, and then somebody says, no, you can't say that. You're too young to say that, right? But if we are all elected and we're all here, my voice is just as important as your voice.
Absolutely. You're spot on. And it's a difficult transition we all have to make, right? Because as one of my bosses said, at your age, you are in the category who is described as numwe. like suddenly I'm part
you're part of the old guard
now, right? So you must learn to appreciate the voice of a younger person. And again, I keep saying this is a very slippery slope to be on, because at this point we are suddenly becoming more of an age thing than an attitude thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you'd find that there are old people, quote unquote, in age, right, who, because of their youthfulness, you don't see the age gap when you're engaging with them. And I think that's where we need to get to, where we can engage without seeing the age gap, because we meet in the middle, right? Again,
it's a meeting of the minds.
Minds, exactly. Same thing at 32. It's your maturity that made people say she can do it. And I'm not talking about you were acting old, you're acting mature.
Yeah.
So we all must, it's the balance, right? Yeah. So I think when those of us who are sort of age old now, I don't know if that's a thing. Those of us who are age old now. Yes, Numwe.
Did you actually respond to that?
I laughed my head off. He's like when you're at home,
they got moment
and somebody comes looking for your daughter or your son, they will be whispering, Numwe Ejelo. You know, kind of thing.
I get it.
And it's quite funny.
Because that's the first thing. You need to clear, you show up or present yourself a certain way, depending on whether he's around.
Numwe is there or not, you know.
Yeah.
So those of us who are in that category need to be accepting of young people who show the promise.
Yeah.
And sit at the table with them, basically. And not sort of keep that table to ourselves, right? You know something you said at the beginning, the question you asked at the beginning, you obviously hacked that role to enjoy it rather than endured it. Because enduring it, you're obviously not going to make it. So I'm totally for it. Some of the best people in corporate life have been young, what we call young people, right? But again, I also worked in another multinational where the CFO was 31 or 32. And one day I asked him, it's very rare to see in our circumstances a 31 or 32-year-old CFO, not just a CFO, but also an expatriate CFO. Like, you've done well enough to be expatriated to go
another country. And
he's like, I may be 31 or so, but I've had 10 years experience in this business, in finance in this business. I've seen what it takes. I've seen a bit. I have the requisite experience to do this role. And suddenly, there was a switch in my mind, right? That he joined the business at 20 or 21. He was given the right exposures to be able to gain the experience for him to be a CFO now. Will we give young, sharp people the exposure that enables them to quickly go through that experience curve and be able to take on the
they should come, they should be photocopying things and picking things off the copier and buying us lunch. And
which is why we don't want to be youthful, because we want to show a clear distinction and to let you know that you have to go through crawl up the ladder and be my age before you can handle this.
Recently I did a talk on the different generations in the workplace and the whole mental health struggle that the different generations go through. And one of the big things that when I was doing the research that popped up was this mentality of inherited suffering. I suffered, so you too must
go through it.
So you too must suffer.
Yeah, it doesn't come that easy.
And a few examples popped up in my mind, which is, when I was pregnant, I had only 2 months maternity leave or 3 months maternity leave. And so even though maternity policies are changing the world over, no, I will not subscribe to that
because
change.
I went through this.
Because that's what I went through. When I came in as an intern, I photocopied and I bought food for 1 year. So that's what you must do, even though there's more utility for me as an intern to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And managers need to kind of evolve a little bit from that. And you're absolutely right. That that power distance that's created that makes people not want to be youthful is actually a way of showing, it's creating a power distance, right?
Absolutely. I think part of it is fear.
Fear of someone catching up with you? Or what? Fear of what?
Of you becoming irrelevant. Because I think when it's obvious that somebody can do your job at you're 50,
25.
the person is 28, right?
Yeah.
The person is bringing more energy, more dynamism, usually. Okay?
New ideas.
Yeah. So why do we need you?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, remember that sometimes, usually, most of the time, you are sitting on a fatter package than this young person who is hacking it to enjoy at that same age, right? But I think we, as a society, we need to create room, okay? Because I think when you get to a certain point in your life, in your career, you should be more of a guiding hand and preparing the next generation, right? So here I'm talking about, I'm being a bit more, not personalizing it, but looking at it from what is important for the nation, right? If you're going to groom the next generation, you can't start grooming them when you are off.
Yeah,
right?
You start grooming them whilst
you are, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Which is why all across basically the world, especially in our circumstances, you find people staying on to power, staying on to roles, changing their age and all that, trying to stay on. I think if we lose that fear and we create a space for ourselves as you grow older to take on a different role, a different persona in society, you shouldn't be afraid of being youthful.
Sure.
Right? You shouldn't be afraid of being, and you shouldn't be afraid of encouraging the youth to take on more and more and more, because as you transition out, they would already have experienced some of those things and will be ready to take over from you. And I think society is all about legacy. So yeah, I wholly back being youthful, and I wholly back. So to use myself as an example, I know, I'm very aware conscious of the fact that sometimes I come across youthful, and sometimes I tell people that I haven't suffered for it, not in a big way, right? Because I've noticed that teams will still respect you and work for you. It doesn't matter that you seem youthful or you don't seem youthful. And the thing is about inspiring rather than command and control.
Yeah.
Because you can achieve similar results with command and control. And that's what we usually do. It's the easier way out. It gets responses quicker. Command and control, fear as a trigger. I'm older, I'm more senior, I'm this, I'm
But
that.
are they sustainable?
That's exactly
And
the point
do
you're
they
making.
also, apart from the sustainability element, are they meaningful? Do
Absolutely.
they connect, right?
You're using the words that I'm absolutely loving the words you're using, because I believe that when we spend time at work, and I'm using work a lot because it's an easy space for me, we spend a lot more time at work than we do at home.
Yes.
And so if you cannot create an environment of enjoyment whilst you deliver, then people are not happy doing what they are doing, and it creates, your success is not sustainable, because
Absolutely.
people can only do so much. Then eventually people begin to look for
Alternatives.
or coping mechanisms, as in I appear to be working but I'm really not working. Okay.
So the whole quiet quitting thing where
Exactly.
they are there doing the bare minimum
Exactly.
and just
to take the box
to tick a box.
for you. And secondly, you don't get the full power of the team, because when people feel the freedom to do, they
They do
challenge
more.
themselves. They do more. They come up with perspectives you would never have come up with even if they gave you the whole world. So youthfulness, absolutely important. And I think whilst we cannot express it the same way, okay, I've been able to jump on a motorcycle. It doesn't mean the next person should do the same. Okay, we are wired differently. But I think allowing yourself to be vulnerable, be open-minded, I think for me is more important in this journey of youthfulness than anything.
Got it. If there are two things that we must do to keep ourselves youthful, what would those two things be?
Being open-minded,
So a mindset.
yes,
Cool.
I think it's very important. What will be the next one? I think being active.
Active. I think those are really spot on.
Yeah.
Because that, even with older people, when they come on retirement, just inactivity is what starts off the
Yeah.
dementia and, you
Yeah.
know, the steady decline
Yeah.
and so on.
Absolutely.
So you are, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the conversation around fulfillment. Because this is packed, right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you? What does fulfillment mean to you? Is it a place? Is it a stage in your life? Is it a moment? What is it in your life cycle?
I think it's about consistently engaging in experiences that tick that box.
Tick which box?
Of fulfillment.
Okay.
I think anytime you make fulfillment the end game, you find out very soon that you're chasing your tail.
Like shadows.
Exactly, because you get there, it's like a mirage. You get there and you realize, oh, actually you're looking for something
Else.
right? If building a house, a certain type of house in your view is when I get there, I'll be happy.
You decide
I'll
you
be
want something
fulfilled.
else.
You realize, okay, absolutely. I need a holiday home now. Okay, exactly.
Are you insinuating something?
Well, I'm not talking about certain images I've seen on yeah.
You can
exactly.
carry on.
Let's move on. But yeah, I think it should be a constant. Should I use that word I use again? In pursuit of that, right? Everything you do, it can't be everything, but most things you do must be fulfilling to you.
Got it.
Yeah, and even if there's you are having to sort of hack certain things, you must have in your life other things that fulfill you, that you are constantly going after, or you're constantly engaging in. Because you started by saying life is short. Like we none of us has a guaranteed span.
Yeah.
We don't have a TAT on this life that is promised to us. So I think every day you must live a fulfilled life.
So it's almost like in the daily things, they need to be fulfilling.
Yes.
So it's in the food that you eat.
Absolutely.
Don't eat bad food.
Absolutely. Amen to that. I mean, I discovered good food, as in I discovered the pursuit of good food late, right?
Yeah.
I used to think my eating habits were a bit weird. I don't eat this, I don't eat that. But I grew up and I realized that actually, it's not that I don't like food. It's just that I like good food.
Got it.
So I would do a lot to get good food. And I don't just eat to fill my tummy. I eat to savor the experience. So, yeah, somebody may say it's a luxury, but even when I'm driving along the Kofi Brookman lane in East Legon,
You're looking out for the nice ones.
The nice ones,
Yes.
right? Specific type. If I don't see them in a certain way, I'm not stopping.
Okay.
There's been a couple of times that I've stopped and I've said, no, move to the next.
Yeah.
So you must.
So it's something like that. It's as simple as the relationships you invest in.
Absolutely.
Right? So if there's a relationship that you're not even sure, does it fulfill me? Does it, there's certain relationships that you're not even sure if it makes you happy or makes you sad.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's almost in the everyday things, do you walk away feeling this fills my cup?
Absolutely.
Or does it increase my cup versus does it drain me?
Absolutely.
And maybe those are the things that so it's not like an event or an end goal, but it's in the daily
It's the
things.
daily things. You're absolutely right. And listen, it's not as easy as we are saying. And it's something you need to constantly remind yourself about, because there are certain relationships that are...
That wear you out.
Exactly.
Like the way I wear you out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I endure it because I
Did
have
you just say you endure me?
So, yeah, I do. Because there's always there's a silver lining. Your food is amazing.
Oh, so are you now telling the whole world that you're having this conversation with me because I'm going to feed you after that?
This is what did Sharon call it? Bloopers, right? Supposed to be for behind the scenes. Yeah, but
well, you need to bribe me for me to edit this out of it, just so you know.
Don't do that.
I am not editing it out of it.
Listen, but I'm proud of it. I mean, I'm proud of it. Listen, the truth is, and I was deliberate about this point. The truth is, not every fulfilling experience is enjoyable all through.
That's true.
And sometimes it's because of what you know to be the goal, the what you're heading for. So you sort of, and I love the expression, you sort of hack it to get there.
Yeah.
All right. But if you expect every part of the journey to be enjoyable, then I
got it
think
wrong.
you got it wrong.
It's just like even like marriages or friendships or
yeah,
parents,
absolutely.
relationships with your parents, right? Or even work.
Yeah.
Everything has the highs and the
And
lows.
yeah.
And as you go through it, there are highs and lows.
Absolutely.
So yesterday, for example, I called a friend of mine late in the night and I said, and she says, you don't sound good. And I'm like, no, I'm not feeling good.
Yeah.
And she says, and what are you going to do? I said, oh, I'm going to do some work. She says, why don't you just go to bed?
Yes.
Right? But
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like you think that everything is supposed to go a certain way, but it's not always going to go the way you want it to go, right?
Yeah.
But it's just knowing that there are highs and there are lows, and you need to kind of take the good and the bad as they as they come along.
And the mix adds to the fulfillment.
Yeah.
I think it's a false life you be leading if everything is happening like it's sweet all the way
through.
It's never true.
Can life be fulfilling if you don't? Can life be satisfying if you don't feel fulfilled? It's a bit of that's a trick question. I promise you.
Can life be what?
Satisfying if you don't feel fulfilled.
You can be content and happy without going through fulfilling experiences.
Got it.
But I think the more you feel fulfilled, the easier it is for you to tick the box of happiness and contentment.
Okay.
But I think contentment is something that is bigger than everything, because you know what we were talking about in the beginning. You can build the home of your dreams, and get up and say, "Okay, but I need a holiday home," and get that, and then say, "Okay, but I need rental property." It's a constant. It's like
Chase
a drug.
pursuit.
Exactly, right? But if you can get to the point where you can be content, right, then you are not panicky, even when the next thing is not coming along. So I actually think contentment is the peak of everything.
Yeah.
And so I won't put contentment under fulfillment. I would actually say fulfillment all along the way, but being able to be content with what you have is guarantees happiness all through these experiences.
Got it. When do you think people are the most fulfilled in their lives?
I think that's the easiest. I think when they achieve their goals, or when they achieve the things they set out to do.
Okay. So, for me, it's always, a lot of the time, it's with my kids, it's with my friends, it's with my relationship, right? In no particular order. That's where my fulfillment always comes from, right? Being able to connect with people I care about. And sometimes for some people it's with work, achieving or growing or earning a bigger paycheck. And for other people, it's the experiences that they have, whether it's holidays and so on, right? Do we look at people and judge the things that fulfill them?
Well, sometimes. But I think...
like someone is fulfilled with work.
Yes, true. And I don't think we should judge them, right? But I think that people go through different phases in life. Sometimes you are at that phase where building a house fulfills you. Sometimes you are another phase where experiences fulfills you. So I think people go through different phases, and each phase is characterized by a different challenge or a different goal. And therefore, I don't think as a rule we should judge people for what fulfills them, right? Because I see people do that a lot, right? Somebody is a shoe fetish and keeps buying shoes, and I see people judging them. Like, how many shoes can you put your feet in? I'm like, you know what? Allow the person.
How many
right?
shoes do you have, Tara?
Excuse me?
How many shoes do you have?
Are we supposed to be able to count the shoes we have?
Of course we're supposed to be able to count the shoes we have. Of course.
So that's my answer. But there are people spending lots of money collecting stamps. I find that absolutely ridiculous.
So you're being judgy now.
That's it. That's the thing, right? That's why I won't judge somebody who invests in shoes, right?
What do you mean that's why you won't judge yourself?
I don't know why this keeps coming back to me. Yeah, I love shoes.
Okay, carry on.
I love shoes. It's not exactly a weakness, but I love shoes. I mean, generally as a rule, I don't think we should judge people for what fulfills them, because I think what fulfills people is always going to be different.
Yes.
And sometimes people actually transition through different phases of what fulfills them. So I think if it becomes an addiction, then you have a problem. Right? But beyond that, or up until that point, I think it's okay.
Okay. In the last few years, you've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I've made fun of you from here to Timbuktu.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I've also kind of lived vicariously through you, right? Where we've kind of, and even me starting this is also my way of doing something that is meaningful to me.
Absolutely.
And is fulfilling me certain needs that I have, right? Do you want to tell us about some of those things and what those things have done for you as a person?
So the first thing is, let me go through maybe some more responsible items before I get to the more seemingly responsible items. I mean, seeing my daughter grow, absolutely fulfilling.
But it had nothing to do with that.
Oh, I had a lot to do with that. Come on, every single step of the way. It's a drag that never ends for me.
Sure.
I'm always going to sniff up on that drag as long as I live, and it's been a big part of the last few years, especially seeing her turn 18. But I've done things that are out of character for me. First time people saw me on a motorcycle, they were like, "What? You? Never. We never could have thought."
But why not? Why would they never have thought? Because
Maybe-
I would have seen you on a motorcycle.
Yes, but it's also because there are people who saw me from when I was in primary school, and they
because you are usunhu.
yes,
Like
sort of, right?
Okay.
I was never seen as the most adventurous
just person. True. What's the next thing?
Yes, I think on a scale, I think me learning how to ride a motorcycle, because it's
That's the big one.
yeah, that's a big one. It's for a lot of people, it's against what they think is my character, right? But actually, it's not so much against my character. I think as I kept discovering myself, there was a point where I felt this was a challenge. Like, why are people riding motorcycles and I can't? And actually, I found the safest way to learn how to ride a motorcycle. I didn't just jump on one. I went to a place called Gear Shift Academy and jumped on.
Was that an advertising moment?
I think so. Actually.
It's cool. Don't worry.
Cool. Yeah, I think so. I'm only going to get an invoice for it. But yeah, and I learned how to ride, and now I consider myself a biker. I haven't ridden in about 2 or 3 months, but I will ride a lot. Just the quieter streets, the holiday period, I'll ride a lot. And yeah, I felt fulfilled when I finally could sit on a bike and go on a journey.
Yeah.
Being able to ride takes your mind off so much, and I enjoy it. The skill, the concentration, and all that. And there are powerful bikes we are riding. So, yeah, it's a box I've ticked, and I feel fulfilled for it. I've done other things. I was very happy I went up Mount Kilimanjaro. I went with my friend Richard for his birthday, and we did other things apart from Kilimanjaro. We were very realistic that this was not just an adrenaline thing. We were doing something for ourselves. But I went to beautiful places in Tanzania. We went to a park. I've forgotten the name. I won't try out. But one of the most beautiful places I've been on earth. And I love the fact that I was able to do that with my boys. I mean, it was just us having fun, laughing on planes, on ferries, just being ourselves. I think that over the last few years, one of the things I've also done that I'm happy about is going back to school. All through the years, I've just been working.
Stubborn.
Yes, I know. Questioning, what do I need to do? I don't need this now. And changing jobs like they were going out of fashion. But I think with the stability, I've achieved a certain level of stability in my work life, and I think with that stability has come the need to sort of educate myself. I think learning is a lifelong experience, literally. So, yeah, I've gone back to school, and I'm doing more. I did one thing this year, and I'm doing more, and I have a supportive environment both at work and at home. So, yeah, I'm pushing that button. So, yeah, these are all things I've done, and you're right. I've done a lot. I've done a lot since COVID, actually.
Yeah.
Look, COVID is like a
So
watershed
I'm looking at you and
moment.
smiling.
I know,
Like,
right?
look at this.
No, it's also because to some extent, yeah, you've been my friend for a while, and you said you're living vicariously through me. I think also looking at me and seeing the different sides to me, it's quite. When you have a friend and you see the friend going through the gears, you are happy for that person. So yeah.
And then you threw a party, which you said you'd never do.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, how you are truly my friend. I never threw like parties and all that. So when I decided to do it, I was like, okay, this has to be a party. But the good thing is, I think the truth is, I also found somebody who matched my energy on this party thing. I decided if I was going to do it, I needed a planner. And I found somebody who maybe even exceeded my energy in that moment. So I initially started from a typical agency briefing, sort of, this is what I want. I do not want a black tie, suited up. It doesn't match my personality. Spoke about what I want, and when it came to life, I had kind of moments like, this is amazing, like, I'm happy I did this.
It's really good. A lot of that you see the things that you're doing differently and the positive things. Because a lot of the time we get bogged down by the day-to-day and the struggles that we have, right? But just even stopping sometimes and recognizing the big things and the small things, but the positive ones in our lives are really, really, really important.
Absolutely.
And I want to say, well done.
Thank you. But you've said something that I think is important for all of us, that we recognize and count the positives more than we count the negatives, because the negatives don't go away. I think the balance of life, we're always going to have negative sides to us. And I think we sort of dwell, not just on ourselves, but even other people, dwell on their negatives too much.
Yeah.
I think we should learn, as part of this whole dynamic of
extending
fulfillment,
grace,
youthfulness, extending grace, and seeing people for what they are good for, not just seeing them for what they are bad for, right? Because this life, as you like to say, is tough as it is, and we need to allow people to have their bad moments, but to recognize them for their good moments, and even for ourselves. So I think I've been on this journey to rack up experiences, positive and fulfilling experiences, and I'm still on it.
I don't want to see what the next couple of years are going to look like, but all the best to you.
Thank you.
I'll make you a cocktail.
Absolutely, looking forward to that.
And before I make you a cocktail, if there's one thing you want to tell anyone in their 50s about how to stay youthful. I know you've already talked about mindset and you've talked about keeping active. Just the whole thing about living a meaningful life. One thing.
Never limit yourself.
Never limit yourself.
Yeah. And this is not an age thing. Right from as you come out of school, right when you're in school, as you come out of school, as you start working, never put a cap on yourself and say, this is all I can do. Go for it. That is not to put yourself under undue pressure, but it's all about never limiting yourself and say, this is it for me. At my age, this is what I can do. No. Okay. Yeah. If you want to build a house at 25, tell yourself that's what you want to do,
and just do it.
And do it. Go for it. Start small, but start. If you want to drive a Mercedes at 30 years, why not? Go for it.
I'm going to drive a Mercedes at 30. So, given that,
yes,
I was ill prepared for all of this, all I can say is, stir it up. You can guess all you want.
Tonic water.
I have no idea what it is.
So
It's been good having you, Tara.
This has been a fulfilling experience.
I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
How do you like your cocktail?
Shaking instead.